Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the buffed Louisiana. Now this happened last update, but it's so crazy we still have to take a look at it. The entire superstructure now is 38 millimeters, so we're immune to HE shells pretty much, unless you pen over 38, which some cruisers are capable of. Notably, a Friesland is not, so he is only going to be getting fire damage on us. And to spoil a little bit, he's going to hit us 260 times. How much damage, alpha damage, not the fire damage, do you think he's going to do? Very little, as it turns out. We also are getting a buff to the airplanes here. It's not a direct DPM buff, but in my opinion, it's effectively a DPM buff. You can now store up to 2 flights at a time. So there's not this incentive to immediately use your planes the instant they come available, because then you're losing DPM otherwise when you can only store 1 flight up. So we just launched on the Duncan, and 10 seconds we'll get another flight. This allows us to store them up for better situations and perhaps use them to get a damage control used on the first flight and then go get the follow-up fires on the next one. It also allows us to more consistently get some spotting on destroyers, for example. It's one of the main benefits that these planes give you. As a battleship, one of your main weaknesses, of course, is the lack of intelligence gathering. The class is so strong in many other areas that it makes sense that it would have this weakness of needing to rely on teammates to get some spotting, to contest areas of the map, that sort of thing. Louisiana doesn't have to deal with that. And if you guessed 2,000 damage from that Friesland, bro, he's doing like 10 damage per hit, basically. Okay, not every game is going to look like that. But we also had a Dalian farming from that exact same smoke who got like 100 hits for 1,000 damage. Yeah, the fires, of course, but the buff to the superstructure is kind of wild. You'll see that it's not completely immune as we go throughout this video, but that is one of the big buffs. The other one, of course, just these planes. And this is a perfect example of how strong planes are just purely off of their spotting. Not the damage necessarily that they deal, which these do okay. The bomb reticle is a little bit wide to hit cruisers and destroyers consistently. Against battleships, it is pretty darn good though. And yes, that was a Citadel into a Montana at like 20 kilometers. Still have the very nice 10-406s with the same dispersion, alpha damage, pen that are on Montana. You're a Montana minus 2 guns, but you gain incredible battle impact through these airplanes. Now, I will say you do have to give a lot of broadside to use all of those guns, so perhaps better to actually just sit bow in and only use 6 guns at a time. In which case, yeah, we are definitely at a disadvantage compared to most battleships. We have to give like 45 degrees of broadside, something like that, to actually fire all of our main guns forward, more than giving up enough to take massive hits from armor piercing. And given that it's 38 millimeters of armor now on our superstructure, much less likely is it that we're going to get overpenned there. Now, it's so large that we were often not getting overpenned anyway, but it is worth mentioning. There is a Shima also in the cap here. He's outside of Salem's radar range. He's also not anywhere close to our Barbiano. We have a Barbiano on this flank, struggles to get the spotting in. But what happens if the planes just come over and spot for him and the Salem? We're not doing any damage to this Shimakaze. This is not showing up on the damage output battle impact charts, if that sort of chart even exists. Yet, we're the entire reason that poor Shimakaze is out of this match. Spotting is just incredibly powerful. I think it'd be really good if Wargaming were to, say, make spotting minimap only from planes. That way we would know where the Shimakaze is, but he wouldn't be instantly out of the game for daring to touch the cap, even though he's well outside the radar range of the cruiser that he is fighting on that cap. And he knows the destroyer is pretty far away too. That's tough. That is really tough to deal with, and one of the reasons that when there's airplanes in the game, oftentimes it results in a little bit more passive games. I think the spotting is a big portion of that, just forces people a little further back. Louisiana having this ability to spot is... it's kind of game-breaking in my opinion. I think battleships should be forced to rely on their teammates for this sort of intelligence gathering. We now know that the submarine is here. It's very challenging to deal with subs without any sort of spots on them. You have to really guess about your ASW drops. In this case, we know exactly where he is, so our Setembro is getting some nice hits in on him. We'll use the map border to turn around almost instantly. I'm going to set my drop here mainly because I want to retain the spotting, because the planes will stick around for a little while they're going in for the drop. And then I can get on my own ASWs to hopefully get an accurate drop on him as well. We can also use that brief time where the planes are going in for their strike and they're still spotting, but we're back in control of our ship, to actually get shots off with our own plane spotting, by the way, too. So a lot of little tricks that we can use here that are extremely powerful for the Louisiana. And I suppose that also applies to all of these hybrid ships, just now more so with the Louisiana line, that they can actually charge up 2 strikes at a time, allowing them to even more consistently have that spotting when they need it. We also are able to play closer to battles thanks to this armor upgrade as well. So again, reducing the travel time required, allowing us to play bow in more often. There's a meaningful difference in travel times, I would say, is if you're kited, the planes launch going away from the battle, versus when you're bow in, they launch directly forward to where you want to go already. So again, really just synergizing these 2 buffs together. Did Louisiana need these buffs? I will say I don't think so, but I am a pretty notorious hater of carriers and submarines in this game, as you guys know. So hybrid ships, pretty similar to carriers and how they break the game. I don't think it needed it. I do not want to see these ships get any more powerful than they already are. Yet, if we look at the popularity of this ship, the damage output of this ship, the win rate of this ship, it's really not very good. If we look at the last few updates, it is the least played tier 10 battleship by quite a bit, even less than ships like Irresistible, which are much harder to get. As far as like tech tree battleships, this is easily the least played. Preussen is the next least played. Preussen has 24,000 battles in the last 3 updates on NA. Louisiana has 6,800. Now, if we go over to Europe, Louisiana has 10,000 battles in the last 3 updates, and the next closest tech tree battleship there is going to be the St. Vincent at 45,000 battles. So this ship just does not get played, and is likely why Wargaming buffed this ship. Is usually that's how they're going about buffs and nerfs to ships, it seems like, is not the power level necessarily, it's about how often the ships get played, unfortunately. Leads to some pretty extreme scenarios where maybe ships don't get played very often, but they are utterly game-breaking, and they just don't touch them for a very, very long time. Or ships just get a lot of play rate and they're game-breaking for years, like Colombo has been. We'll talk about Colombo. I need to look at that ship again now that they've nerfed it, actually nerfed it this update. We're going to take some big hits here, though, from the Bourgogne. Look at how angled we are. I was expecting more of a bounce there. 15k still is what I would have expected before, but now that the superstructure is all 38, I thought, oh, I could angle it a bit like a box and we would get bounces. Next salvo, also a pretty good hit into us. Another like 15k, something like that. So this isn't as game-breaking necessarily as it looks on paper. I was kind of concerned about that. Seems like there's enough areas that you get shot traps in where the armor piercing from battleships is still going to do very good damage regardless of angle. Oh yeah, by the way, Montana guns hit pretty darn hard. Double citadel there, and rear turrets looking pretty good as well. Better angles when we are kited, by the way. So a little bit worse when it comes to actually dealing damage with the planes, you know, that longer flight time. But if we are taking these angled approaches, we do get a very nice 35-degree firing angle when we're kited. So that helps out a lot for keeping this ship from taking too much damage. I will say, it's still battleship dispersion, so not every salvo is going to be the perfect dev strike. Now, pushing up to some very aggressive islands is what I wanted to try. You'll also maybe have noticed by now on the minimap, why are my secondaries reaching out to 11 kilometers? Well, if we got a buff to our superstructure and its ability to tank damage, and this ship, if you didn't know, actually has the same hitting DPM pretty much as a Libertad at 10 kilometers. Libertad is 43k hitting DPM at 10 kilometers. Louisiana is 41. So we gotta try it, okay? So I am pushing up more aggressively than I normally would in Louisiana. and we're still tanking better than we used to, all the while taking a troll bad build for a ship like this one. We're not having concealment, and we're not getting any extra heals here. I am still taking fire prevention, okay? Don't want to be giving up the best battleship skill in the game, so we are still doing that. I'm going broadside enough to fire all my guns at Hornet. We're going to get punished here, actually, by the GK. He got some decent damage into us earlier, but here we're going to notice that our Citadel is actually going to get hit on the bow. He hits our bow perfectly for that bow cheek sit kind of thing. GK 15 kilometers, not the most accurate, but still, it can happen. And so it's going to force me to angle here. It's a little disappointed we didn't fully get the Hornet there with that broadside shot. Kind of patiently waited for it. But the secondaries coming in clutch for us. I should note, the secondaries are only that good off the left side of the ship because the secondary turrets up on top of the superstructure, the flight deck there, can shoot on both sides, where the ones on the left side can't shoot over to the right. GK is going to hit us when we're angled at long enough range that I thought we would bounce that a little better. It gets like 13, 14k into us there. Again, it's a buff, but it's not just an immune superstructure now. I found it did actually still take damage, which I'm glad, because I was very concerned that this was suddenly going to be the tankiest battleship in the game, while also having the most intelligence gathering battleship in the game too. Speaking of which, we are now very outnumbered on our flank. I appreciate our Velos going and getting the cap, as this is a close game and we need the points, but it's a sub and a DD that we have to deal with. We would not be able to go spot this sub, so we'd have no idea where he's coming from. We would not be able to guess on our ASWs. I'm going to try a cringe blind drop. Forgive me for being bad at drops, by the way. I don't play carriers. We miss it. That's okay. The goal here was to get the intelligence of where they are. Again, the power here is the damage, yes, but once we know where someone is, we can play around that so much easier. It's one of the main strengths that destroyers and especially submarines have, is being able to deal damage without the enemy knowing exactly where they are. They're able to sneak around, and because I'm able to get the spotting here, well, they're gonna have a much more difficult time of it. Also want to shout out our Velos for instantly, as soon as he's got the cap, coming back, not just chasing the battleships into spawn. He comes back to help me, and that is a massive deal here, as that's going to allow us to perhaps surprise the destroyer here around the island. And yes, the DD is back to help us. We get a very nice hit in with the HE that we did swap to, and now reversing, but going to go forward. Pretty obvious torp angle, I gotta say, so we want to avoid that if we can. And still trying to get those blind drops in on that submarine. Now the Christopher is going to get finished off by the Velos, and now it's a 3v3. It's a close game. I love these sorts of experiences, but the planes kind of break it. We now get spotted in our planes, so we know the sub is on the surface and was about 9 kilometers from us, because that's our plane detection range. So we just need to get close, and suddenly the cap flips. Now we know exactly where he is. Just a matter of going and spotting him. In fact, before he's lit, we can start our drop because we know he is right here. We're also starting our drop in a way to get a little damage. He's on the surface, we can. But also, we can get back to the next planes here too. Get that one reloading. If I was a little bit more prepared, perhaps I would have my guns turned. My ship would not be directly behind the island, and we could have got a shot away as well. But we're getting back in the planes. Here, we're going to force him underwater. He saw that he got spotted by the planes. That way he's no longer in the cap, or he's not actually capturing the point, and so we can catch up on points just a little bit quicker. Notice we're tied right now. Very, very close game. But the planes allow us to break the match. It just opens up the whole game, and unfortunately, yeah, this GK is going to eat so much damage. Notice the Barbiano in his smoke now. Well, the Velos is also in his smoke. I'm so far away behind islands. Doesn't matter. GK is still spotted because of the planes. See how minimap only spotting would be a big difference in a lot of these matches? The ability for those planes to be spotting ships for players to target is a big difference maker. Now we're also going to get out with our main guns here. Time to angle, as we certainly have taken enough damage. And in fact, this was a bit of a risky maneuver. I shouldn't have gone in like this. The GK was on fire from our previous drop, and there was no need for me to push out. Just a risk there, but fortunately, we don't get punished for it. Now, the Hawaii gets the Barbiano, and it's a submarine and a Hawaii against a battleship on 25k HP, and a tier 9 DD, who has done an incredible job, but it's a tier 9 DD against a Hawaii and a submarine. Louisiana does not take damage from a Hawaii, though. Any other battleship, I really do believe this, any other battleship at tier 10, assuming we don't just one-shot the Hawaii when he comes around the corner here, is probably dead in this scenario to a Hawaii. If you miss a shot against a Hawaii at these ranges and these HP pools, you let them farm you for another 30, 40 seconds, you're done. Your game is just over. But Louisiana now can just shatter all of this damage, even though we have the massive bonus compared to every other battleship in intelligence gathering. But we don't have the weak superstructure anymore that, well, it was still a pretty strong superstructure because the flight deck was armored still. It was just the upper portion of the superstructure that was the vertical section that we could hit and actually deal damage to. At range, it was still bouncing and shattering a lot. But look at how little damage this Hawaii's doing. And in fact, speaking of missing shots and probably should be dead because of it, I completely whiff on the Hawaii there. Just a horrible shot. But that's okay. He's not really doing any damage to us. Just a little fire ticking. That's not a big deal. The submarine desperately trying to get the pings because it's late game. So pretty easy lead for us. We managed to take him out. And we've lived long enough to get 3 salvos into a Hawaii at 10 kilometers. I believe any other battleship is probably dead there, assuming they take that long to finish off the Hawaii at those ranges. Yet Louisiana survives it pretty comfortably even. So yeah, it is a pretty massive buff. No, the superstructure is not completely immune to damage, but you really need battleship AP shells, maybe some cruiser AP shells. If you're a cruiser with less than 38 millimeters of pen, good luck dealing damage to this thing, especially DDs as well. It is a very, very difficult ship to deal with now. And I have a theory, if you're willing to listen to it, as to why this ship has such a low play rate, even with the buff here. I think perhaps, not the only reason, but perhaps one of the main reasons people play ships like carriers and subs that go vastly against the gameplay that Wargaming advertises. If you've ever looked at the marketing material for World of Warships, it's a lot of brawls, it's a lot of close range action, high DPM cruisers, torp runs, that sort of thing from DDs. They advertise the 3 main surface ship classes. That is the pull. Carriers, pretty game-breaking, subs, pretty game-breaking, and they feel like some weird addition tacked on. Doesn't feel like they mesh very well with the 3 surface ship classes, in my opinion, and I think the vast majority of people's opinion. So the reason to play them is because they're so powerful then, right? So what happens if you make a ship that relies on that sort of mechanic with planes where the drop isn't particularly accurate, and you add some ships to the game that have a better version of it? Maybe people will play that one a little bit more often, and it's a lot more powerful as a result. People aren't looking for planes in particular because it's such a fun experience. I think it's pretty basic, I guess. Dumbed down might be the right word. There's not a lot of complexity there, so maybe less enjoyable over the long run. Perhaps people play these because they are just so powerful and they want the best possible ship in their matches to try and win, rather than it's because they enjoy that sort of playstyle so much. That's just a theory of mine. As you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of carriers, not a huge fan of planes. I don't find that very enjoyable. People I think they like the base playstyle of this game. So when a ship is very different and the mechanics aren't as enjoyable to use and maybe aren't flat out overpowered, maybe the ship then just kind of sits in port and people don't play it. Just a theory of mine as to why this ship doesn't see play, even after these buffs, where it's very powerful. Look at this armor, guys. This all used to be just 19 millimeter plating, so very, very susceptible to taking damage. In fact, we can have a great example of what it used to look like, right? Kearsarge. This is sort of what it used to look like, although I believe this low section down here and anything at this height was actually 38 as well, so a little better. And there's some overhangs that we have on Louisiana where perhaps some shells would hit this kind of more vertical section, but plunging fire would bounce off of here. But it's pretty massive buff. This is a very, very powerful ship. Here is the meme build that I was using. You should not run this, okay? Do not run the secondaries. Go get yourself Concealment Expert and the extra heals instead of these 2 and probably this one. And you'll have a much, much better time. The secondaries are just a funny meme, and I had to give it a go. Considering this ship has so much tankiness now, I had to try it. They do technically have pretty good hitting DPM as long as you're firing off this side, because all these secondaries can fire. This way, a lot less. Equipment-wise, make sure you are taking the accuracy upgrade here, and then concealment. taking the plane modification because they are so powerful, I'd probably go for turret traverse. It's a little slow at times, or you could go range mod to get the slight, very slight improvement to your vertical dispersion. I was taking damage control mod, but main armaments mod works really well here too. Having 2 flights is a big deal. Damage-wise, sure, but even more spotting. Technically, it's not a buff to DPM. Technically, it's the same DPM as before, but if you weren't using the planes on cooldown the instant they were up before, now this is a buff. This is a buff to the DPM. The effective DPM is higher. Consistency of getting that DPM out is higher. The ability to use that DPM on more effective targets is much, much higher because you don't have to use it right away. You can save it for a little longer until you get that right opportunity. So let me know what you think in the comments down below about this American hybrid line. Not a huge fan of it, as you guys are well aware at this point. But these are some pretty massive buffs, so I thought it was worth covering. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.